Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the FPL Addicts and Esports Live fantasy podcast for the Game Week 4 review. Today we'll be discussing some problems at Palace, Leeds marching on to a brilliant result at home to Man City, and some absolute FPL carnage on a monumental Sunday. First of all, though, we've got to introduce the guests. Same as usual, we've got my right-hand man in the Esports Live commentary box, it's Elliot. Craig, how are we, Elliot, mate?
I'm brilliant, thank you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, top class. We've got the FPL Addicts guru himself, it's Matt.
How you going, Ollie?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
And I think we found a man who's potentially a worse manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's hard to beat. I think we've got one. It's Jack Gillibrand from the Esports Live sector. How are we?
I'm okay, Ollie. Thank you for the intro. Please don't ever introduce me like that ever again. Thank you.
I think I might be getting my P45 if I ever do anything.
No, all good, mate. Glad to be back. And how we doing, boys?
Of course, we will just quickly go through some of those results. I touched on some problems at Crystal Palace. They were exacerbated by a 4-0 defeat at Stamford Bridge to open up Saturday. Everton 4, Brighton 2 at Goodison Park was a 6-goal thriller there in Liverpool. Leeds 1, Man City 1, a great result for the Yorkshire side. Rodrigo getting his first goal in all white, and Raheem Sterling getting one for the Citizens. Newcastle 3, Burnley 1. Great result for me as a Rovers fan, especially to soften the blow of a 0-0 draw at home to Cardiff. The result to open up the Sunday was an interesting one. West Ham travelling down from London to the Midlands and smashing Leicester 3-0 at home. Southampton 2-0 up against West Brom. They won there. Oriol Romeu with an absolutely stunning volley, his first goal in absolutely ages. Arsenal held off a stubborn Sheffield United to win 2-1 at the Emirates. Wolves 1, Fulham 0. Goal from Pedro Neto separated the sides there. And we get to the two mental results of the weekend. Man City 1, Spurs 6. We have found the manager worse than Jack. It is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's got more problems than Jack has to contend with, and that's crazy to even say. Kane, Son, Aurier, and Ndombele getting the goals there. And then the most mental result of the weekend, Villa 7, Liverpool 2. Mental to even say. And for more on those results, Elliot, please elaborate.
Thank you, Ollie. It was definitely an interesting game week in the Premier League, to say the least. There was 41 goals scored, 1 hat-trick, 6 braces, 4 teams were able to keep a clean sheet. But enough of that. Here's my top 3 results of game week 4. My first top result of game week 4 with a little bit of controversy. I'm going to say it now. I haven't chosen Man City Leeds. I've chosen West Ham 3, Leicester City 0. The Foxes came into game week 4 on top form after a massive away thrashing and win at the Etihad in game week 3. However, despite the absence of David Moyes in the Irons dugout, West Ham sat back and defended well for most of the game and were able to catch Brendan Rodgers' side out on a counter. They successfully countered 3 times with goals from Mikel Antonio, Pablo Fornals, and a third goal in 2 games for star man Jarrod Bowen. My second top result of game week 4, to Jack's despair and Matt's delight, was Tottenham 6, Manchester United 1. After both sides had late VAR calls that dictated their game week 3, Spurs travelled up north to face an inconsistent Man United side who were yet to start kicking to their post-lockdown form last season. Bruno Fernandes got Man United off the mark with a quick penalty. However, Spurs reacted rapidly with 2 quick-fire goals, one from Tanguy Ndombele and another from Heung-min Son, who not many people thought was going to play, but we'll speak more on that later. A controversial red card decision then saw Anthony Martial dismissed early, with Eric Lamela lucky to escape the same fate. Spurs took a 4-1 lead into half-time with 2 more goals, one from Harry Kane and another from Son. Mourinho's men then came out in the second half able to score 2 goals, one from fill-in right-back Serge Aurier and a second from Harry Kane, which ended the game 6-1 to Tottenham Hotspur. And my third, final and most shocking result of game week 4, the Reds travelled to Villa Park for the final game of match week 4 to face an in-form Aston Villa side who are even more in form now after a crushing 7-2 win for Dean Smith's side. A first Premier League goal and hat-trick for Ollie Watkins, which if you're listening, James, I know you'll absolutely be delighted with that. A debut goal for Chelsea loanee Ross Barkley and a goal for Scotsman John McGinn, followed by a brace from Jack Grealish, who also got 3 assists, capped off Villa's 7 goals, and then a brace for Liverpool from Mohamed Salah softened the blow for them. However, it was still an embarrassing 7-2 loss at Villa Park. So there it is. That's my top 3 results of game week 4.
So now we've introduced the guests and we've come to the time of the week where we see whether they can cut the mustard to see how they went on in game week 4 and if they're looking forward to the upcoming international break. So Elliot, we'll start with you. How did you get on this last game week?
Well, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, mate, but I scored 92 points. It's my highest, not ever. I think I've got 94 before in previous years, but it's definitely my highest this season so far. Most things went right for me. Obviously, Southampton getting a clean sheet, it was brilliant. 9 points for McCarthy because he got bonus as well. Walker-Peters on 5. That didn't affect me too much. Van Dijk with a -2 and Trent with a -1. Yeah, what more can you do? Less said about that game, the better, I think, for Liverpool fans and for my fantasy team mostly as well. James Justin didn't do anything for me, but it was either him or Mitchell, and Mitchell obviously conceded 4, so I did choose right out of the 2 poor options there. James with 18, 2 goals for him. That was brilliant for me. Salah was my captain, which I was up during the game and I was a bit worried when Villa started scoring, but Salah managed to get himself 2, so that was all right for me. Bruno Fernandes, who was transferred in for Heung-min Son because I wasn't sure if he was going to play. Son obviously did play, scored twice. I think he assisted as well. But, Bruno Fernandes scored, so it's not the worst. And then Saint-Maximin, who I've stuck with all year, finally gave me a return. A goal and an assist for him, got him 12 points. 16 for Harry Kane after his brace at Old Trafford. And then Jimenez, who I transferred in 2 game weeks ago, just hasn't been able to get firing for me, unfortunately. So I'm hoping this week's the week. But, patience is key, is what everyone's always saying. So hopefully he can get firing. But that is how my game week went.
Absolutely mental score. That's all you can say about that. 90 plus, you're in uncharted waters. That's absolutely mental. Now for the Guru, did you somehow manage to outscore him?
Look, I didn't outscore Elliot, but what I will say is last week I took quite a bit of stick on the podcast last week from you boys for my 41 points, and I did try to tell everyone fantasy league isn't won in a week, so I'm very happy with my score this week. 83 points. Did my transfer 5 minutes before the deadline this week, so I had yellow on St. Maximin, Richarlison and Son were all injury doubts, but I stuck with them and then scored well above the average. Son was the most transferred out player in fantasy league this week, and I stuck with him. Jose Mourinho's mind games. We've heard him use these types of games in the past at previous clubs, so he never quite ruled Son out. So I thought I've got to stick with him, and he ends up with an 18 points. St. Maximin, same as Elliot, kept hold of him, 12 points. Sterling, who I raved about last week, he gets himself a goal. Not a bad captain shout. Salah, Havertz got me an assist. Looking at my defence, Semedo was who I brought in for Ben Davies. Ben Davies did get a assist in the end, but Semedo come out with a couple more points. So he let down by Alexander-Arnold, Justin with a token point, Mitchell coming off my bench for Doherty, who didn't actually start, and then McCarthy with man the match. Richarlison was a letdown. He was one I was going to take a -4 hit for, but he did start the game and then unfortunately come off injured after 27 minutes. But yeah, look, I can't complain at all with the way this game week went, considering everyone did doubt me last week. So yeah, very happy.
Nobody doubted you, surely.
Well, you've certainly proven them all wrong. Matt, just one thing I quickly would say on your team before we move on to Jack. Obviously, the international break's going to help you with all that yellow you're seeing. Does that worry you heading forward?
No, look, it after what happened at this game week, where I had the 3 injury doubts, I'm not probably as worried as I thought I would be. And I've got Brewster to come in. So Brewster I've had since the start, 4.5 mil, and he got the move to Sheffield United on Friday. So they've got Fulham at home next as well. So, if I do end up having an injury to, say, Richarlison, I'll bring Brewster in there, and then I'll probably use my, transfer on either Sterling or St. Maximin if they do end up getting ruled out. So now I'm not too worried, especially with, the likes of Doherty could potentially play after the restart again. So I've got a couple of options there now, so I'm not too worried.
Has Brewster's price increased since his move, or has he remained the same?
Stayed the same, hasn't he?
Take a look. still 4.5. So
Still
he's got
4.5,
low
okay.
ownership as well, and Fulham at home next. So
Yeah.
I've got a bit of luck with that move.
They
Yeah,
don't
the
score the most
hefty
goals.
transfer fee as well. Yeah.
I think
No,
that's going to benefit a lot of people if you had him from the start. But a bit of red and even a 5 in the FDR there as well for Sheffield United. But a good move, I think, for Brewster. I think they've overpaid, but we'll have to wait and see if you can prove those doubters wrong. Now, Jack, over to you. How did you fare this game week?
Well, for being the worst manager in the world, I came out with 68 points this week, which was 20 above the average. Obviously, last week my main aim was to get above that average, and I think I nearly doubled my score. I did take a -4 hit due to a couple of issues during the week. I was very excited to get Mane in. Thought Aubameyang going into the game week, made the transfer, and I was kind of leaving my squad as it was. And obviously, then he got hit with the COVID-19, and so he had to take these 2 weeks out, unfortunately. So I was a bit devastated, and I had to make the decision whether to leave it or take the hit. And I kind of went with the guru's advice and brought Sterling in. He's one of his form picks, one of his picks for the going into the game week. So I picked him, and then I was a bit indecisive about choosing the captain. I did go with De Bruyne in the end. Sterling would have obviously got me over and got my points and got those increase on the 68. As you can see, obviously McCarthy carried it from the back. My back four offered me absolutely nothing. James, I missed. He's been dropped out now, and I didn't really have anyone else to bring in. So my midfield, luckily, with Grealish absolutely on fire. He got obviously the 24 points. Salah with the 13. In that game, assists and goals between them. So that's really what bumped me up this week. And Calvert-Lewin back in again. Quite happy. I kind of changed him instead of Martial because he obviously had a nightmare over the weekend. So 2 weeks with him's been going good. 68. Happy with that. Back in the top 100 in the mini league. I'm coming for you, boys.
Yeah, we'll be waiting a while for you, mate. Now over to me. Actually, for all the talk I've been dishing out, I actually scored 10 points below Jack. I had 58.
Take a piece of that.
Yeah,
maybe a bit humble pie there, but if you'd have offered me 58 at the conclusion of the Arsenal Sheffield United game, I'd have taken that hands down because I had an absolutely shocking start to the game week. Obviously, McCarthy from the back was brilliant in Southampton's result. Obviously, the early goal really scuppered my plans for a double clean sheet for Leicester. Tariq Lamptey, again, not great, conceding 4 to Everton. Walker Peters, he was decent. Definitely an option to keep hold of, especially with that green coming up for the Saints. John Egan, they got to an hour and, they defended quite well, and I thought they might keep a clean sheet, but a couple of goals obviously got rid of those plans. De Bruyne blanked again. He's on the chopping block for me. I don't know if I can get rid of him because I know he's probably going to fire the next week, but he's one I'm going to have to think about for sure. Obviously took the hit for Son to Fernandes. Son, obviously, as we all know, started and absolutely smashed Man United to pieces, but Bruno Fernandes got himself an early penalty, so that softened the blow a little bit. Mohamed Salah was the only real shining light for Liverpool in their 7-2, humbling at the hands of Aston Villa. I was the only one in the top 20 in the league to captain Danny Ings. I thought against the very frail West Brom defence, he'd fire. He blanked, of course, and that really held my score back. And his strike partner, Harry Kane, who I've had since the start of the season, fired on all cylinders. It's his second haul above 15 this season. So if you don't have him, my advice would be to get him in wherever you can, pretty much. I ended on 58. I was projected for a drop of about 1 million midway through the game week. Softened that to about a drop of 150k, down to 600. 602,000. So from where I was, not a bad game week on the whole scheme of things. I would have liked it on a little bit better.
But you did come fourth out of the 4 of us,
right? That'll be the only time that happens all year. Trust me on that.
We'll see what happens in there. Well, who's on your bench, by the way? Because obviously you've got 5 at the back. I'm not too sure how many managers do play. Obviously the 5 at the back in there, especially with your points that you got this week. But who would usually play? Is usually Reed or Anguissa? Is that who you usually have in the midfield, or are you happy with the 5?
My preferred is the 5, but if there's a bad fixture somewhere, I would like to go with the Fulham connection. Fulham are breaking my heart at the minute because obviously I've got Harrison Reed on the bench there, who was a great player, one of my favourite players during his time at Blackburn, obviously being a Blackburn fan, but they've gone and signed Tosin Adarabioyo, who I won't be bringing in. He's 4.5, a defender from Fulham who was brilliant for us last season in the Championship, and obviously with Tom Kearney as well. So it's a bit annoying that I've got to go with a Fulham team on a Fulham theme on my bench, but I've got Anguissa on my bench who would usually come on, or Reed. But yeah, a bit of a Fulham theme there. But I'm happy with the 5 at the back.
Maybe those Championship players are doing you no favours there, mate.
Possibly not. Possibly not.
Right, good stuff.
Just on to the chips played this week. The stats in the mini league. As I said, I was the only one to captain Danny Ings. 10 in the top 20 went with Mohamed Salah. So they fired there. There was a duo that went with Raheem Sterling. Another 2 that went with James Rodriguez. 1 Ings, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin, Mahrez, De Bruyne, and Son. Whoever captained Son, very well played. No one captained Jack Grealish, to your dismay, Jack, but you must be happy that he fired for you. 24 points, absolutely monumental display.
Yeah, I'm obviously really happy with obviously how Grealish went, and I think everyone was obviously shocked by it. I mean, as a captain, it's a bit of a risky one, right? I would have been a bit wary of doing that and taking that risk. And, you know, KDB, you would have thought performed, Sterling, even Calvert-Lewin I was thinking about, but Grealish never really sprung to mind. But fool me.
The top guy in the world actually didn't he? He put the triple captain on him, and he got like 160 points because Grealish alone got him like 72. So I don't know what he's on, but he triple captained Jack Grealish when they had Liverpool at home. So we're asking him what the lottery numbers are, because that is how do you do that? Like, how does that work?
Where does that even come from? Exactly. Where does that even come from? He must have known something that we didn't, like you said, mate.
I just remember like a few years back as well. I think it was Kyle Walker-Peters who was going to play for Spurs like one game, and it was his debut, I think, and someone triple captained him and he got 3 assists or something. I think that was 1 or 2 seasons back now. Just mental.
It's crazy what some managers triple captain. You go through them each week and you see, how in the world has he gone triple captain that? I think I saw on Twitter there was a few hundred people who triple captained Ollie Watkins. Seriously. And that pays off for you. Liverpool at home, you triple captain Ollie Watkins and it works. Fool me. And now we move on to who really should be the cream of the crop, and he's firing off. And on our podcast anyway, it's Matt with the Guru section. Fire away, mate.
So we're going to go through the team of the season so far. We're going to do something a little different with it being an international break coming up. So obviously we'd normally go through the team of the week within the 100 million budget, but this is the team of the season so far, highest point scorers per position, and I've done it as a full squad. So we'll start with the goalkeepers, and we've got Darlow from Newcastle and Martinez from Villa, and then as our defence, we've got Roman Saiz from Wolves, Cresswell from West Ham, who actually got the majority of his points in this previous game week with 2 assists and a clean sheet. At the back, we've got Castagna from Leicester, who's performed in every single game week up to this weekend so far. We've got Mings and Konsa from Aston Villa, which gives us 3 Aston Villa defenders in there with Martinez, Mings and Konsa, which is a bit of a surprise because Villa have only played 3 game weeks out of the 4 so far. And if we go into the midfield, Son, Salah, James Rodriguez. I'd say with Son and Salah, they're 2 that we'd expect to see so far. Rodriguez started life in the Premier League a lot better than what some may have imagined. Got Jared Bowen in there from West Ham, who's definitely a bit of a surprise. And then Jack Grealish, who we spoke about again earlier on, with his monster score of 24 points on the weekend, 2 goals and 3 assists, which is unheard of against a side like Liverpool. And then up front, we round it up with Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's just taken the Premier League by storm this season, and Jamie Vardy's in there to round up the forward line. We did have Callum Wilson on the same amount of points as Vardy, but Vardy did just slightly edge him in terms of his form. And there we go with our total best players so far.
There's a lot of claret in blue in that defence, Matt, being with obviously we've got Martinez in net, Cresswell from West Ham, Mings and Konsa also from Villa. Does that surprise you, knowing the obviously the stature of the teams there and obviously their known defences previously, especially with Villa and West Ham both nearly going down last season?
Yeah, look, I'm very surprised with Aston Villa. Konsa and Mings, they had the 2 game weeks with clean sheets playing against Sheffield United, who haven't scored. Obviously, other than the Arsenal game this weekend, they hadn't scored for about 5 or 6 games previously. So, they had that game and they had the Fulham game, who Fulham are obviously struggling. So they got their clean sheets there. And then even coming out of the Liverpool game, only conceding the 2 goals, they were still able to get a couple of points out of that. So I'm very surprised because they've got a game in hand over everyone. And then with Cresswell, talking about West Ham struggling last season, he just was brilliant on the weekend against Leicester with those two assists and a clean sheet. So yeah, very, very surprised to see those 3 in there. Roman size, someone like him, Wolves are a bit more established and they're known to keep the odd clean sheet, but Cresswell, Mings and Konsa, did not expect them to be in there after 4 weeks.
I think on that, obviously having 2 centre halves in there as well, is that quite a bit of a shock? Do you know, for a team of the season candidates? Obviously having centre backs, I mean, we usually talk about Van Dijk, but having like people like Mings and Konsa in there and early shouts, it's obviously a bit of a surprise, right?
Yeah, that's a huge surprise because when we think of defence, we think of Alexander-Arnold and Robertson from Liverpool. So we always think of fullbacks. Last season we thought about Matt Doherty at Wolves as well. So we're always thinking about the fullbacks. We've also got Cresswell in there, Castagna from Leicester, who's started life in the Premier League really, really well. But your Mings and your Consas, 2 centre backs to be hitting the points that they have so far. I'm very surprised. But will they be there by game week 38, team of the season? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but very impressive in the first 4 game weeks.
Moving on to the international fixtures now, and the players that you think in FPL that might be playing in those games, and the ramification that has on the Merseyside derby early on Saturday. Matt, could you elaborate on what that could mean for FPL?
Yeah, if we look at the South American qualifiers, there's actually a number of South Americans in the Premier League that are going to be going away, flying halfway across the world to play for their respective countries. So, if we look at, I'd say perhaps the most important of these is James Rodriguez. He's had a great season so far. As we just showed, he's in the team of the season to date in terms of points. And they've got a fixture against Chile. So Colombia played Chile in the early hours of, I think it's Wednesday morning on October the 14th. So, that's only 2 days before the early kickoff in the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool. So Rodriguez is going to have to, play for Colombia on Wednesday morning, get himself back to, to Merseyside by kickoff on Saturday. So he might only get back on the Thursday, maybe even like the Friday morning UK time, depending on the time differences between the two. And then he's got to get himself to the derby on Saturday, probably without any training sessions. You've also got the likes of Firmino, who's going to be going to play for Brazil, Richarlison as well. So there's a lot of air miles in those guys. And then with Colombia as well, you've got Yerry Mina playing for Everton for the Merseyside derby. So there's going to be a lot of travel for those guys. Some other South Americans we've mentioned just before in the team of the season so far. Martinez has been picked for the Argentina squad. So the Aston Villa goalkeeper. There's Douglas Luiz, who's going to be playing for Brazil. So, all of these guys are going to have a lot of air miles in their legs. Davison Sanchez, a Colombian for Tottenham if he gets the shout to play against West Ham. So, yeah, there's a lot of travel for the South American guys for sure.
And just moving across from South America to Europe now, obviously see a lot of English assets that are doing really well to start their season. They've got 3 games over the international break. They've got Wales, Belgium and Denmark. Do you see any English assets being hampered by this international break?
Well, I'm a bit worried, especially from a Tottenham point of view with Harry Kane. He's had his injury problems in the past, and there's a bit of back and forth between Gareth Southgate and Mourinho about Kane's playing time. And Kane at the moment, as we saw, he's in the top scoring FPL strikers at the moment, and I think he's fixture proof. He can do it in any game. He's a bit of a must-have for me in Fantasy League at the moment. And with England having games against Wales, which is albeit a friendly, but then you've got the Nations League games against Belgium and Denmark. It's a case of what Southgate going to do. Like, is he going to play him for half a game against Wales and then the 2 full games, Belgium and Denmark? Belgium and Denmark games are in the same week as well. So, that does worry me, and it would probably worry me if I owned him and, then he does pick up a knock because, he's a very big asset to have, and he's someone that you'd probably want to captain. So Harry Kane worries me. But then on the flip side, we've got, another top scorer, point scorer this season in Calvert-Lewin, who's, got his call up, and I'm hoping he might be able to push Harry Kane and, take some of the minutes off him and give Harry Kane a little bit of a rest. Albeit I like to see England win the games, but I don't want to see Harry Kane get an injury as well. Just to mention as well that I missed a couple to look out for that aren't playing international fixtures would be Mo Salah and Son. They both aren't going to be travelling with their countries because there's no games for Egypt or South Korea. So if you own either one of those two or both, definitely keep hold of them, and I think they'll be captain potential in game week 5.
Here, obviously, if they're not travelling to their countries, a decent rest up, and they might be right for the next game week after the international break. So now we move on to the guest section, and now we have one of the best Australian Centurions since the great man Donald Bradman himself. He's flying the FPL flag in Poland over there as an Aussie. He's a Chelsea fan. It's Josh. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, guys.
Obviously, you were absolutely flying this week. Just explain how you got on.
To be honest, a bit of luck. In the defence side of things, got a couple of clean sheets, so I think I made up a few points there. And I was happy to see Salah get a couple of goals in the rout by Aston Villa, so that sort of bumped up my score a little bit. And and I took a bit of a punt on Bowen on the right wing, getting a goal in the last part of the match. So a bit of luck in all, but the big guys came through in the end. The players that I've been counting on for a few weeks. So
that's good stuff. But how many years have you been playing FPL?
To be honest, in FPL years, I'm a bit of a noob. Probably 2 years. I think my last season was in Australia. Doing much better this season. I think it's because I'm closer to the Premier League than I was there, so I'm watching a lot more games, and the news is a lot easier to access. So I'm able to watch obviously more games and follow the players a bit more. But
yeah, I think obviously on that one, Josh, like I feel I'm a bit of a disadvantage because I'm in Australia, right? You're in Poland. You're a bit close to the action. Just getting the excuses in here early for my performances. But obviously, you're close to the action. Can you just give us a bit of an insight into watch a lot of the games? Are you analysing them closely? Obviously, you've alluded to that slightly already.
I'm not sure if the wife is too happy about it, but I'm pretty sure over the weekend I watched every game. So, the last 2 weeks anyway, I've been watching every single Premier League game. I think I'm doing that deliberately to sort of get a gauge on how the players are sort of gelling with the teams and sort of trying to understand how the teams are going to play this season. So obviously there's going to be games that I miss. So I'm taking advantage of that. And I'm only in Poland temporarily at the moment, so I'm trying to watch as many games as I can before I leave, because I won't be in the same time zone for much longer.
So it's Matt here. I've got looking at your team, mate. It's pretty handy. You've got James, Havertz, Harry Kane. So just make me ask you, what made you play your free hit early, and do you think that's going to cost you later on down the track in the season?
Yeah, it was a tough decision actually. I knew I had obviously I've still got my wild card, and I'm planning to save that for a while. But my free hit sort of the second week hit me pretty hard because the first match of the season, I took a punt and I was pretty successful. And then the second round, there was a lot of clashes with the players that I had, and either way, I was going to lose points, or I could field a temporary team and sort of get a certain score and be okay with that. So it was going to happen 1 week this season, and I chose to do it early on. For me, I don't think it's going to affect me too much, but
that's interesting. I just had a look as well, and you made 3 transfers this week as well. So what were those 3 transfers you made this week? Because it looks like you took a 8-point hit, and it's paid off with 100 points. So
I took. Yeah, well, actually, surprisingly, I had Son in my team, and then I took him out because Mourinho wasn't very clear on whether Son was going to play or not, and it turns out he was. I would have, but I ended up replacing Son with Rodriguez. So
perfect.
Yeah, ended up being okay. And my right winger, I've had Declan Rice in there since week 1. He's a cheap midfielder, and I wasn't really he's not as big a contributor going forward as Bowen was. So I took a punt on Bowen, and it paid off. And I brought Tielemans in. I think that's a temporary fix. I'm still not 100% happy on my midfield. I'd say if I was going to change my midfield at this point, it'll probably be Tielemans. And then I think I'll be pretty happy with that. And probably my defence, Alexander Arnold's probably the one that's looking to be swapped out.
Interesting. That's awesome.
So obviously, Josh, the deadline day has just passed. Obviously, you said it's a lot easier to follow the content over there. Obviously, Chelsea as well have made quite a few signings. You look at likes of Chilwell, you look at Thiago Silva, Havertz, Werner. One, do you think the side that will really impact the side this season? And two, are you happy with the transfer business?
Yeah, look, I'll lean to number 2 first. I'm pretty happy with the transfer business. It's been, considering the fact that we couldn't sign players for a season. But in terms of the team, the signings themselves and how they're going to perform, I'm not 100% certain. I think you can see glimpses of these players doing things and bits, and they're going to be great players for the club, but it's just a matter of whether it's going to be this season or next season. It's going to take time to gel. If I was to pick one player, which, a lot of people might not agree with me, that's going to do really well this season, it's probably Ben Chilwell, because it's a natural fit at that left back position. And, he's English. So, the coming into an English side, it's going to be easy for him to adapt. With Werner and Havertz, it was good to get Havertz a hat trick in the Carabao Cup. Werner just needs a goal. I think he just needs to kick off his season with a goal, and he'll be away. And it was good to see Mendy get him the clean sheet, but it'll be interesting to see how much he competes with Kepa. I'm not 100% certain yet. I haven't seen enough of him.
Obviously, said that it being interesting with Chilwell moving, into an English side. I saw a stat, it was like 4 of the back 4, including Mendy, obviously, all spoke French, and Chilwell was the only one that didn't. And as soon as the commentator referenced it, he scored straight away, so he shut them straight up. But it's mental just how they have an all French back 4, and Chilwell just answers them with a goal.
Yeah, well, there's reports also that Chilwell spoke French in school, so it's that it's just a matter of how much he could understand, and these are professional players. I don't have any problem with that. In the news reports make it worse than it sounds. I'd say that Chilwell had no problem communicating with his back 4. I've actually heard Thiago Silva speak English, so I don't think the communication is the problem with these guys. I think it's the understanding of how each player plays, and I think that'll come.
Josh, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast. Obviously, flying with that 100-point score. Hopefully, it continues for all throughout the season. Take care in Poland, and hopefully, if you're still at the top, we can have you back on the podcast. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thanks again.
So now moving on to the draft section of the podcast. Now, there's some very, very interesting games here. The third one down in that results is one that Elliot's absolutely buzzing with. What a shocking week he's had. Maybe, I think Steve Bruce would have managed better than that, and that takes some doing. But first fixture, obviously, the man himself, Jack, we've been ridiculing him. He's had a top week. He's had a good win there over David, who again has another solid week. I had a shocker, but it was great to see Rolando went even worse. I had a 9-point win.
27-18.
27-18.
It's getting worse than Elliot's.
That's a bore. I got more than Elliot.
I wasn't lowest. I wasn't lowest. All right.
You got to take
that's
it.
That's all that matters.
Your score and Rolando's score combined would have still lost to mine.
Yeah. Well.
To be fair to myself here, I know I had a shocking week. You take the 3 points whenever you can get them. A win's a win. And to be
100%.
fair, Elliot scored lower than me. James scored lower than me. So, you know what? It was a shocking week, but it was great to see someone do even worse. I don't usually take pleasure out of seeing someone do really badly, but thank you for saving my blushes, Rolando. Much appreciated.
I'm looking at that right. Nathan Peel's got 51 points, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
What?
that's unreal itself. We said he was. We said he was like Liverpool away, and he's just gone and done an Aston Villa. Unreal. He's doubled James' score. What's he doing? The Mac lads are on fire. He's got
James.
himself a win, and it's shaken up the league table. He's got a 29-point win over James, who again has had a shocking week. And the result we have to talk about. Elliot, I know you do your 3 results of the week. You completely forgot about this one. 70-point shellacking from Matt there. Really showing why he's the guru. Ollie Watkins firing for him there. Elliot, what's going on, mate?
Yeah,
You better
look,
than this.
the classic normal FPL is the more important one, isn't it? So I'd rather.
There we go.
Oh,
I'd rather win that. You know?
That's what,
Get the violins out.
doing already. Get out the league.
Get the
No,
violins out.
I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. I think I had De Gea in goal, which obviously it's never nice when you concede 6. I think I've got Trent in there as well. Joe Linton didn't score, which was a big surprise for me. You know, he's always reliable. You always expect him to bag. So
After his top form.
yeah, exactly. Tarkovsky, obviously, he conceded 3. Chris Wood didn't score. I think if you look at my bench, I think I had Bulldog on there as well. I think he got an assist. Obviously, they conceded, but look, you look at the injuries on the bench there. You know, it'll get firing at some point. You'd call me mental for going with De Gea over Alisson. I think I did actually change De Gea out. Obviously, Alisson got ruled out, but when Maddison's back full firing, you know, Leicester have got a nice run of form. Yeah, I'm going to be a force to. You don't want to be around me, lads. I'm telling you. Hopefully, Richarlison's injury is not too serious, and we can get back on the high horse.
Elliot, you scored 19 points. Sterling scored 9 of them.
Yeah.
Sterling scored just under half of your points, mate. You're in absolute disarray. Wait, we'll just go to the fixtures quickly. Surely I have you next week, please. Please, there's the table while we're at it. Jack on top of the league. What is going on?
Flying. Absolutely flying.
Jack is on top of the league. 2020 has really gone mental. He's 1 point clear of Matt on the old goal difference there. I'm chilling in 3rd. Dad's in 4th. The Mac lads are in 4th. He's making a run for it. Above Elliot.
He's above me. Oh, no.
Yep, he's above you. He's above you. He's in the Champions League spots. You're chilling in Europa League. You've done an Arsenal. Absolutely shocking. David in 6th. James in 7th. And it was lucky that I had Rolando. He's got 38 points. So I got really lucky there. He's propping up the table. Onto the fixtures. Grand reveal. Do I have Elliot? No, I have Matt. Brilliant. That's probably a lot. Jack has. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Could be an upset. I can't even say an upset at this point.
With draft, you got to prepare your team for your fixture, so you can only beat what's in front of you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing you, Ollie. Like I'm a bit worried because you've,
It's worried. You got 27 points.
Get the bad week out my sister.
Yeah, but you got to look at. Remember me like last week? I got less than. I won my fixture, but I got barely anything, and then I've come out this week with 89 points, and that's the thing. Draft is so different to classic. My draft team this week's got more than my points in my classic team.
To be fair, you said that I had a bad week this week, and that's true. I had 27 this week. You had 28 the week before, so it's either going to be a high scoring one for the neutrals, get your popcorn out, or it could be a boring score draw. Yeah. Who knows?
You can only beat what's in front of you, mate.
Exactly. We'll have to see how that one goes. That'll be
my kind of game, boys. My kind of league. This.
Enjoying this one. You have to be good at something, so
Yeah.
Oh, they're flying out, aren't they? Yeah. Bloody hell.
Just look over the fixtures.
You can't get points hits in draft, so
yeah, you can't do FPL suicide. So
don't let me lose with that.
It's sorted there. So Elliot's got Jack, Rolando, and James, David, and Nathan, and myself. And Matt to round it off. Obviously, we'll go back over these next week because obviously there's an international break. There'll be no games on, but it's just nice to get the banter flying early just to make sure that we're away. But that's the draft section done, and that was a very fun one to go over. So we'll round off the podcast now, almost. So we'll go for the manager of the month kind of section here with our performance so far in these 4 game weeks. Elliot, we'll start with you. Are you having better form than in draft? Surely. Please tell me you are.
Well, I didn't think I was doing too bad until I've just been ridiculed there. Rightfully so, 19 points isn't good enough. But if we look at Classic, I'm not doing too bad. I think, second in the FPL Addicts League. So hopefully I can stay up and around there. I don't think second's going to be where I finish. I think I'm not going to be first either. I think it could be between 20 to 30 is what I set myself out to do. So hopefully I can do that. Obviously coming off the back of a 92 point game week haul. I haven't been too bad, been below the average once, I believe. So I'm having a decent year so far. And, as Matt said, it's a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But I think the main one for me was just taking Son out. If I had kept Son in and not gone to Bruno, I would have got over 100 points this week, definitely. So, you live and you learn. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, but we'll see how it goes.
And now, Matt, over to you. I've got the league table up here. You're currently 7th in there. Have you got any regrets that you've had so far this season? And how do you reckon you've started it?
Look, I'm happy so far. Like, my performance is steady and it's within my strategy. So, like, my strategy is to play, the long game. And, I'm happy to be patient and kind of wait for, some of the bigger players to perform. And it paid off this week. So I'm pretty happy. Like, I'm normally in fantasy league. I normally have one kind of big week at the start, and then I start to get stronger as the season goes on. So I'm pretty happy. In terms of regrets, big regret of mine is not having my man Harry Kane. I've had him every single season in fantasy league that he's been available, other than probably his breakup season. I didn't have him from the start, but then I got him into my team. And this season I just didn't put him in, and I'm not really sure why, to be honest, and that's a big regret, because I think he's the one to have this season. I think he's back with goals, and now he's got assists too. I'd probably say as well, I've put a lot into Havertz. I thought he was going to hit the ground running. He's only got me 2 assists out of 4 games, and not kind of backing James Rodriguez instead of Havertz. It was kind of, do I have Havertz? Do I have James? That type of thing. And I kind of, regret is not having James, but I've still got a couple of returns out of Havertz, so I'm happy with how it's going so far. And seventh's good, and hopefully I can hit that top spot before sort of Christmas time.
Great to hear. Now, obviously, Jack, we know what your main regret of the season is. We've been over that enough. We'll have you exempt from that. Other than that, what do you reckon your biggest regret of the season is, and how have you started the season off?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got my excuse in the first pod, didn't I? I said it's my return after 5 years, after giving it up 5 years ago, and I'm slowly getting myself back into it again. I feel like I stabilised the ship this week. Getting that 68 points. My biggest regret, obviously, is the FPL suicide after week 1. Major panic. Trying to save my wild card, but I spent the points instead. Aside from them ones, I think obviously I put Kane in first week and then transferred him out after having a go at Mourinho. After that performance against Everton, I was like, that is it. He's done it. He's done it already to Tottenham. So I took Kane out, and then obviously as soon as I took him out, he's been firing, and he's been assisting, he's been scoring, and I've got to find a way to get back in, and I want Son in there as well. So I mean, my regret is obviously getting Kane out. Aside from that, I probably just need to maybe do a bit more research in the defence. I think that's my biggest issue at the minute. So I'll have a look there as well.
I definitely think if Kane keeps assisting and scoring, he's probably considered, I'd say, probably best player in the league at the minute in terms of form. You can argue Son, but if he can create and score, I think he'll be one of the must-haves before he gets up to that 11 million point mark, because he'll rise every week if he keeps scoring, because he'll be like the De Bruyne last year, the Salah the year before, if he can do it all. And, he's in brilliant form at the minute. If he can stay fit, I don't see why he couldn't win Golden Boot this season, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no reason for him not to get in there as well. Obviously, with Bale supporting him coming in there too.
Yeah.
And he started this season quite cheap. I think he was 10.5. Mm-hmm. Normally he sits at around 11, and I'm pretty sure he's been 12 million before. And then he's obviously had a couple of injury hit seasons, so they've put his price down this year. So I wouldn't put it past me if he carries on this form, he'll be worth over 12 million by the end of the season in fantasy league for sure.
He's definitely had a stunning start to the year. Now, over to me. I think I'm the only one out of us here to go over the average every single week, but I'm languishing in some terms to others. I'm 18th in the league right now, toasting and turning. There we go. The highlighted team there. My biggest regret at the minute, other than getting rid of Son last week, is completely undervaluing Everton assets. I always have a rule in FPL to never go with new transfers in. So that's why I didn't go with Werner and Havertz, which worked out. It also means I missed out on James Rodriguez, who started the season on absolute fire. If I had my time again, I'd go and take James in. Also, people like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Luca Dean have been really, really good for Everton this season. So I've completely missed out on all the Everton gold mine that a lot of people have struck there. So I'm really frustrated. Obviously, as I've said, Son, out, as we've said, I got rid of him last week when I didn't think he was going to play. That cost me dearly. And if it wasn't for that, I'd be, pushing the top 10 there. I'm only 7 points off the top 10, as you can see on the graphic here. And I'm, only a few off the top of the league there as well. So I'm not too far wrong, 44 off the top of the league, not too far wrong. But I've just got to improve that little bit more if I want to get pushing, top 10, maybe even top 5. But we'll have to wait and see. It's been a great start to the season, and that's another brilliant podcast done and dusted and in the books. Lads, cheers for coming on again. And it's obviously a bit disappointing that we've got the international break. We've got the fixtures just coming up here. There's a few fixtures to take note of. Coming up, we've got UEFA and CONMEBOL games. So Saturday, 10th of October, I think these are all Australian time. Spain, Switzerland, Ukraine, and Germany on the Saturday our time. On the Sunday, we've got Ireland and Wales. We've got Bosnia and Herzegovina against the Netherlands. England and Belgium, so another cracking game in a repeat of the World Cup third place playoff from 2018. Croatia, Sweden, Poland, Italy, and France, Portugal is another heavyweight game there. On Tuesday the 13th, Germany playoff against Switzerland, Ukraine, and Spain will square off. And on the Wednesday, Italy, Netherlands, England, Denmark, Iceland, Belgium, Croatia, and France, Portugal, Sweden, and Bulgaria and Wales. Gareth Bale might be back for that game in Bulgaria. And in the CONMEBOL, we've got Brazil and Bolivia on the Friday and Colombia and Venezuela. So obviously we've looked at people like James and Richarlison. So some of the Everton assets might be in the games there. And on the Tuesday, we've got Brazil and Peru and Chile and Colombia to round off. So a lot of FPL assets will be playing. We'll comment on how they go on the next podcast, which should be released next Thursday. But for now, take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. If you want to join the league and join the fun, join with the code WNZJDI. That's WNZJDI. Deadline is fast approaching, 23rd of October at midnight. After that, you will not be able to join the league. So make sure you get involved